Hey, LinkedIn, and welcome back to Business Unusual. This is a live show brought to you by the LinkedIn News team, where we're talking as a community about the changing nature of work. I'm Caroline Fairchild, editor-at-large at LinkedIn, coming to you from my home office here in New York City. National protests against police brutality and systemic racism have prompted hundreds of organizations across the country to explain what they are doing to fight these issues from within. Many of these efforts have to do with equalizing access to opportunity. Though Black people make up nearly 13% of the U.S. population, they hold less than 3% of the nation's total wealth. And despite an increase in focus on representation across industries, only 3% of Silicon Valley's workforce is Black, and there are just 3 Black CEOs in the Fortune 500. On today's show, we'll speak with 2 tech execs who have started a new startup called Valence. It's a networking platform for Black professionals. Joining us on the show today is newly appointed CEO Guy Primus, as well as Kobe Fuller. He's a general partner at Upfront Ventures and a co-founder of Valence. They'll come on today's show to talk to corporate response to the protests to date, as well as what they are trying to build with their new startup. But before we bring on Guy and Kobe, I want to hear from you. The whole point of this show is to have a conversation as a community about the changing nature of work. If you're joining us on the stream, please say hello. And if you have questions for Guy and Kobe about Valence and the issues behind the startup, please let us know in the stream and we'll get to your questions later on. And with that, I want to bring on Guy and Kobe to the stream.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Kobe. Great to see you. I'm sure Guy will be joining us soon. I see him popping up. Yeah. There it is, auto-populating. Great. Thank you guys so much for joining us on today's show. Kobe, I'll start with you. You've spent your career in venture capital. We saw some numbers at the top of the show that show the inequities in terms of access to capital. I'd love to just get a little bit of insight into what brought you to co-found Valence and where the startup is today.
Yes. So about 2 years ago, sitting in my office at Upfront, thinking about how I could solve a problem I was seeing firsthand with regards to some of the issues our portfolio company CEOs were seeing. So for background, about 2 years ago, we started pushing our portfolio companies or encouraging them to try to recruit underrepresented talent into their companies. And we included an inclusion clause in our term sheets inspired by the Rooney Rule. My partner, Greg Bettinelli, was the one that really pushed that. And as I was thinking about things we'd be doing to best set them up for success to find all this talent, I realized that our CEOs were lacking some of the networks to actually tap into these communities, specifically the Black community. And I realized that when many of these companies, as well as other companies outside our portfolio, are coming to me and asking me whether I knew a Black engineer or a Black marketer or a Black salesperson, assuming I knew every Black professional on the planet. And contrary to popular belief, we all don't know one another. and then I realized there's an issue around there being access to the network, and there's lack of transparency around the network. On the flip side, I was also getting inquiries from other funds expressing interest to invest in Black founders, but very similarly, they had questions around how can I tap into the Black founder network? And they just didn't know many of the people that would exist. So I realized, what if there's a platform that allowed our community to be centralized, one, be able to discover one another, and then 2, individuals, would be corporations or funding sources, could tap into this platform in order to hire them or back them with capital. So I was on the side while doing my full-time job at Upfront, creating this visualized database of Black talent. And I realized I was putting this database together that the feedback I was getting from corporations was like, wow, like I would pay to access that data. Or other funds were like, oh my God, it's amazing. I want to invest in that. And I realized, like, wait a minute, I can actually invest in my own startup. I run a fund. It's not something I can do that. So fast forward to about 6 months later from that point, at Upfront, we decided to incubate it as a company. And I recruited a team, and we started building. And we started building first with a very minimalistic platform that decentralized the community and gave people profiles for by which they could discover one another. And then we complemented it with an event experience. Our first event was with Netflix, where on the day of the opening of The Black Godfather, we hosted a private screening in Los Angeles that brought the LA community together and had a great discussion around all the great themes that came from the Clarence Avant story. We had a summit in Atlanta at the Gathering Spot, where we gathered a lot of the Atlanta Black community together to convene and talk about very important issues. Fast forward to November, where we fully launched an alpha of the product. And we got an amazing reception from the community as well as corporations. And then today, we are roughly 7,600 Black professionals strong, networking, finding one another, building with one another, mentoring with one another. We have a mentorship layer built within the platform that allows people to find each other and help each other in ways in which they know how to help one another. And it's becoming a powerful movement that, frankly, I never thought it would get to the point that it is right now, but it's just something that I thought really needed to exist, and it didn't, and I was inspired to build it. So that's really the story of Valence.
And Guy, you just joined the team on Monday officially as CEO, drinking from a firing hose, you told me earlier this week. Your background's in entertainment and tech. I want to know what brought you to this point in your career where you thought this was the opportunity and the company that you wanted to lead.
Yeah, so I'll say that I've been living this experience that Kobe has been talking about my entire life. I was generally one of the only Blacks or the only Black person in a room, whether it was at school, at Harvard Business School. They brought a collection of us together, but I was the guy that had the technology background. Joining Microsoft, I could go weeks without seeing another Black person on campus. And since then, a lot of people have done a lot to address some of these issues. But I think the most important thing for me is, so Kobe and I talked last year, and I thought it was a great idea. I told him I wanted to be involved however I could, but I had other business. I was kind of raising a round for my previous company, and so timing wasn't right, but supported the mission wholeheartedly. Gave him a list of 5 talented people who I'm still hoping to bring onto the Valence team at this point. But kind of fast forward to the beginning of the COVID crisis, and you start seeing the unemployment numbers, and you're seeing that African Americans are losing their jobs at a faster rate. And you kind of fast forward to May 25th, and kind of 2 incidents that day. Kind of the Central Park incident, which again hits home because I'm the guy with the glasses, right? I'm the guy that's riding my bike. That there you can see that there's a bias, right, that we need to address. And the same thing with the murder of George Floyd. Really unfortunate, and doesn't have to happen in the greatest country in the world, in the history of the world. The greatest country does not have to happen. I know people that are smart on both sides of this equation. African Americans, Black people are super talented. They're just not afforded the same opportunities as we found. And so for me, this was not just a job opportunity. Had the opportunity last year if that were the case. To me, this is a calling. It is, I expected to be teaching and kind of retired at the age of 50, which I am right now. But to me, this is an even greater calling. I have the ability to kind of not only change the lives of individuals, but change society and change the world at Valence. And that's what we're setting out to do. It's a huge opportunity, but it's an even bigger mission.
It's a huge opportunity, and I'm seeing some members in the stream thankful that you are taking this on. Dino says, underrepresented talent needs a voice. Love this. I want to say hi to Crystal from Atlanta, Toshin from Houston, Melody from New York, Tamika from Florida, as well as William from Brazil. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're just joining the stream, this is Business Unusual, a live show where we're talking about the changing nature of work. On deck today is how we can create more opportunity and equalize access to opportunity for Black professionals. We have Kobe Fuller as well as Guy Primus. They're joining us to talk about their new startup, Valence. If you have questions about the issues or their company, let us know in the stream. We'll get to them on today's show. Kobe, Guy was just talking about the backdrop that this company that you're starting is launching with protests and so much focus on these issues. You mentioned earlier on in the show corporate response to Valence saying, I would really pay to access this data. How is that shifting? What are you hearing from corporations now as there is so much tension and focus on this issue in this current climate? Yeah,
it's been quite an explosive response, actually. So about, let's say, 6 weeks ago, this was an important topic for many corporations, but it wasn't the topic. And since the last 2 weeks, me personally, as well as the rest of the Valence team, we've just been inundated with inbound requests for help with regards to how to solve this problem. Because prior to all the protests and everyone really coming to this almost feels like a great awakening with regards to racial inequality and racism in America, it felt more like the good thing to do in order to actually prioritize and hire and bring in Black voices. But I think now corporations are starting to realize it's not only a good thing to do. This is business. This is good business. And people are realizing it's good business because they lack Black voices many times in the boardroom and in the C-suite. So when it comes time to come forward, public statements, understanding how to actually deal with the situation internally and externally, they're asking people that are not even in the company. They're asking me. They're asking our co-board member, Omar Johnson, what do we do? And the first thing you should probably do is, wait a minute, look internally. If you don't have anyone on the board in the C-suite that you can talk to that's from this community that can weigh in, that's your problem. If you haven't elevated Black voices internally within the organization to the point where they can have influence on the issues that happen right now, that's a problem. People need to realize internally they've been conducting bad business and they need to catch up. So right now, we have been just inundated with requests around how can we help solve the problem. And our mission all along was trying to bridge Black talent with economic opportunity. And we feel like we're in a really good position to just do our part to help solve these issues and just create more of a bridge between entities that for some reason before haven't prioritized this community and now realize they need to, and just bring this all together. But it's been an overwhelming and exhausting last few weeks.
I bet.
Let me jump in there if you don't mind. I think that one of the important things to recognize is that our database, our membership represents a very broad swath of Black communities. So I think typically what people have done is they've kind of felt safe because they've hired the same board director that's been on 4 and 5 and 6 boards. And so one of the things that we're doing, through the Spotlight program is actually illuminating the Black talent that exists at all levels, in all verticals, in all industries. And so that was, when I saw that and what Kobe and team had already developed, it was something that was really, compelling. It was something that I wanted to lean into. It was, creating these Black superheroes because, if you kind of keep filling your boardroom with the same person, at some point in time, you get the same answers. And so we need different answers. And again, God bless those guys. We're standing on the shoulder of giants in a lot of those cases. But we need a new way of looking at things. We need a new lens through which to examine society.
Right. And Kobe, you talked about bad business, and a lot of that bad business comes from organizations talking about the quote unquote pipeline problem, this idea that there's just not Black talent out there. And what Valence is trying to solve is really this promotion and this visibility issue that is systemic across multiple industries, not just tech right now. Talk us through why we need to be focusing more on promotion, on visibility, to avoid what Guy was just talking about in terms of just reappointing the same diverse talent to the same boards.
Yeah, because there are so many amazing, qualified, just exceptional Black professionals in this country, on this planet, where if we're all going to the same people that we know are super qualified, we're just being lazy by not actually going to the broader pool of Black professionals that actually do the job. And for us, we really want to create a central place by which, one, these individuals can find one another on the platform, connect, build, and grow together. Because in my opinion, there's been a lot of silos by which the Black community has been organized, whether it's be siloed ERGs, alumni associations, or groups locally within some region that's collected all the Black engineers or salespeople. But if we could bring all these people together, we learn from one another, and then we can have corporations, funding sources, tap into this community in the right way, where they could hire the best of the best and actually put them in places within the organization where their voices are heard, where they have impact, and where they actually, or corporations, are privileged to have these individuals within the organization providing impact. That to me is what's super exciting about what Valence can do.
And Guy, what are your thoughts in terms of why this solution hasn't come to bear before? Why hasn't someone tried to create this database? And moving forward, what are the opportunities coming out of this in terms of what the corporate world could look like with access to this database and to Valence?
Right. So I'm going to answer the question kind of from a technologist first. And I would say it's hard, right? It's not an easy thing to do. To aggregate everyone, kind of the 2 million plus Black professionals that we're kind of targeting with Valence is not an easy task. And I think, even harder is actually matching the data so that you're collecting data all along the way, and you can algorithmically match people to opportunities, and you can actually algorithmically facilitate development and promotion. So I think that's the main reason, is that it's a hard problem. A lot of people have done this in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different cities all across the country. And what we're doing finally is just aggregating everyone into one one place so that we can see career progression and development and make sure that everyone who deserves an opportunity is matched and bonded with the individuals that can help them get there, and ultimately the opportunity itself. And then once they get in that position, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that the development is such that they're successful, right? If you put someone in a position and you don't give them the tools to succeed, we might be doing ourselves a disservice, right? So no matter how smart you are and how well-intentioned the company is, if you don't have the right resources and the right path to success, it's not going to work. And then you point back and say, see, it didn't work, so we're not going to try that again. We have to get rid of that. We have to make sure that the people that we put in place deserve to be there, are at the right place at the right time, and are given the tools to succeed. And again, it's a hard problem. And we're I'm putting all my my technical talent to work, and the work that I've done on acquiring the patents that I have and putting that to work here at Valence.
Putting all your apples in the basket. I think I see some apples in that painting behind you. I don't even know if that's a phrase, but we're going to run with it. I'm going to go ahead and say hello to some people in the stream. Lewis says, working collectively and supporting one another with mentoring seems like a good way to build a group and get noticed. But Teresa says, being diverse in a business helps grow the business all around. Luis and Patricia, thank you so much for joining us. Kobe, Guy just started on Monday. Officially, it's Wednesday, but what can you tell us in terms of bringing this product to market? I'm seeing tons of comments in the stream asking how they can join, what's going on with Valence moving forward.
Yeah, so Guy's definitely been drinking from a fire hose a couple days in, and it's been really exciting, and just feel privileged that Guy is on the mission here. He calls it a calling. I actually similarly describe it as a calling, why I actually created the platform. To join, it's very simple. Just go to valence.community and apply, submit your information, and then within 24 to 48 hours, you're granted access. And we are granting access to anyone that chooses to be on the platform and identifies with the community. So if you feel like this is a place where you would like to be, where you belong, where you would like to network with others, please come and join and find one another and build with one another. That's the intention of the platform. And we have a lot of very, very exciting initiatives coming up very soon. Some we'll be announcing in the coming weeks. We just released today, which we'll be publicly discussing as well, a groups feature where we've allowed people within Valence to organize into logical groups by which they feel they have better bonds with one another, whether it be alumni groups or some association that already exists or some interest group. So we're creating different methods by which the community can network with one another. But there's a lot coming in the next several months we're very excited to tell the world about.
And Guy, I hate to put you on the spot with your chairman of the board here, but what's the 90-day plan look for you? How are you measuring success in terms of starting this new job?
Yeah, so
LinkedIn to tell us first how this is going to go.
Yeah, I think one of the things we want to do is just kind of show success, right? So we're continuing to, the last time I looked, over 7,500 members. We want everyone in the stream to join, right? So growing that number is something that's critical to us. Taking advantage of all those calls that have come in, all the inbound calls, making sure that we can address some of the issues. And, again, one of the things we want to be is we want to be a hub of activity, right? So if we, if we can solve a problem, we will. If we can't, we'll refer those people to other organizations that are doing work that, we may not be doing. So for me, it's really important to kind of find product market fit in terms of, the inbound requests, the things that we want to do. Again, this algorithmic matching is something that really is critical because, I was looking at the comments and someone said, it's important that people value the database. And the way that we're going to create that value and demonstrate that value is actually by collecting data and saying, hey, this company did A, B, and C, and it led to X, Y, and Z outcome. And so that's a really critical piece for me, is just to put the data structure in place so that we can avail ourselves of, the opportunity. We can see the threats, evaluate strengths and weaknesses of us, of the employees, of the individuals, and actually do something about that. So everything we have to do in the next 90 days and the next 9,000 days has to be action-based. It can't be about just analyzing. It has to be about proving results, tangible results.
And Kobe, this issue that we're talking about today that now corporations are all having to combat is something that you've been working on for the last 2 years with Valence, but arguably your whole career. Now we're seeing a lot of corporations throw money at this issue. I think the largest 100 corporations in the US have now invested $1.63 billion to fight systemic racism across the country. As a VC guy, what capital is really going to move the needle here? If you had $1 million, where would you put it? You do have $1 million, but let's just say $1 million somewhere. Where would you put it?
Yeah, for me, I look at this as putting capital in the hands of most qualified, best founders. And the way I see it is part of what we can do with Valence is better bridge the community of capital, the venture community, with the Black founder community. They still are connected, but there's some friction. If you ask many Silicon Valley's VCs, how many Black founders have they met in the past year, the number is probably embarrassing. So what I want to do is try to create a better bridge, a better place by which VCs can freely communicate with the founders we aggregate on the platform. With the aspiration to what our executive advisor, Jim Lowry, likes to think would be a great vision is, how do we create 10 billionaires, Black billionaires in 10 different cities? How do we do that? I think part of that is making sure we give them the appropriate capital and resources to start their businesses, and we give them the appropriate development and coaching to maximize the success of that happening. So then that those billionaires can continue investing back in those communities, and we can drive more economic wealth within the Black community. We don't have all the answers, but that's something that I really aspire to try to do with this platform, is to better get capital in the hands of Black founders.
Yeah, and then once those people are successful, what Valence will do is highlight their success. So it's not an excuse that you don't know or you don't think, right? We're going to make sure that everyone knows who those individuals are and how successful they've been, and measuring everything and again, sharing those results. So we want to be, again, a hub of activity, but also a hub of information for people as they look to grow.
It's a great perspective. I'm going to bring in some more comments from the stream. Janet says, this is a bigger issue than just corporations making changes. Yes, corporations need change. However, changes need to start in developing opportunities and support and education for early childhood through secondary and post-secondary schools. Janet, thanks for that perspective. Andrew says, so many smart ideas, helping everyone take action instead of just talk about building equity and equality. Delightful conversation. Thanks for sharing. Janet and Andrew, thank you for joining us on the show. I want to get to some questions in the stream. Guy and Kobe, if that's okay with you. Kate says, I may have missed this previously, but one of the issues I'm seeing with Black employment, at least in bigger corporations, is that only Black people on teams are in diversity and inclusion roles. Why aren't we seeing more Black people across all departments in roles? It's a big question. I don't know who wants to take that.
I'm happy to jump in. I think one of the reasons why you're maybe the first person that you see, and you're not going to see everyone, is that again is a hub of resources. Right. So, if you have been struggling with these challenges for, decades, having a central, ombudsman type role that can, kind of help direct success is critical. Again, I agree that critical mass is really important. When I interned at Intel, one of the things Della Smith, God bless her, she brought 30 of us to Chandler, Arizona to work at Fab 12 and Fab 6. And, just having that group of support was something that was critical. So I agree that, a lot of times you don't see, especially at the highest levels, you don't see a lot of Black talent, but I think it is important to put someone in that role who can facilitate the change and actually can help direct people as they come in the door. And then once they're in the door, help them direct them to resources that will help them be successful.
Right. Travis says, really love the bridging the gap perspective you're both bringing. Kobe, do you have something to add there?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, if I were to summarize it, a lot of corporations have just been conducting bad business, and it's time to wake up. The smartest companies right now will do so, and the ones that don't, I just don't think they'll survive.
That gets to a question here from Gerardo, who says, company culture is everything. What changes do we need to make to see through our organizations? This is something that lots of organizations are grappling with right now. If you could point to specific solutions right now, what would you say?
Yeah, so at Harvard Business School, they teach you that the employees pay attention to what the CEO pays attention to, right? And so when the CEO, I worked with and for Howard Schultz, he was someone who acted more than he spoke. So his, the general counsel was a black woman, a gay black woman, right? So there's a lot of people that he put in place at that executive tier, on the board level is super important, right? Because they are the people that the CEO reports to. So, making sure that the board of directors is diverse, and not only, again, just not the same, faces that we see all the time, but actually representing different facets of culture, not just black, not just women, but really representative of America and the market that you're serving is really critically important. And I think we have to start at the top, but obviously you're not going to put someone in that role that doesn't, kind of have the background. And so we need to facilitate the opportunity, but at Valence, we're also going to facilitate the development. How do we get the talent to the top? And that's really where it has to start.
And if I were to chime in, I think companies need to reaffirm their values and communicate those across the entire organization. And this is just about treating your fellow man and woman with respect. Cut the microaggressions, cut the day-to-day just slights that sometimes happen to members of the Black community or fellow Black peer, and just be a good human being and be informed. Because if you're not, these organizations become toxic individuals that are perceived or feel like they're on the outside. And frankly, those are the ones that leave and they go somewhere else. And that's why you see very, very poor retention across some of the largest companies that try to hire Black talent, but frankly can't retain them because, one, they don't value their voice, they don't promote them, or they treat them poorly.
I don't think I can think of a better note to end on than let's all just be good humans to one another, both inside and outside of the workplace. Kobe, Guy, thank you so much for joining us. Shahid, multiple people in the stream are so thankful for your time. Shahid says, this platform looks to be something I've been searching for since entering the professional world. I look forward to becoming a part of the community. Thank you. So Kobe and Guy, thank you for your insights. And we look forward to seeing Valence grow, beyond Guy's third day in the remote office world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Guy Primus as well as Kobe Fuller talking about their new startup Valence, which is a networking platform for Black professionals. I want to thank them for coming on today's show. This is Business Unusual, a live show coming to you every weekday at 12 Eastern from the LinkedIn news page, talking about the changing nature of work. Tomorrow, I'll be back again to be talking about how the quarantine, how the pandemic has impacted not just the dating industry, but the entertainment industry as well. Joining me on tomorrow's show is Hinge CEO Justin McLeod, as well as Emmy award-winning producer and the host of 90 Day Fiancé, Sean Robinson. They'll be speaking to us about how they've changed their roles and how their industry is changing amid this pandemic. It's going to be a great conversation. So I hope you join us back at the LinkedIn news page tomorrow at 12 Eastern. I'm Caroline Fairchild. Thank you so much for joining us.